So we're going to go ahead and look at some compound events here. This is notes 12.8. Can I find the probability of a compound event? So first of all, when we think of compound, okay, I hope you think of more than one event. Okay, we're going to be looking at more than one event, the probability of more than one. And we are going to separate these events by either using the word and or the word or. Okay, so let's just jump right in and take a look at a compound event using the word and. Okay, the R's here stand for red, the B's stand for blue, and the W stands for white. Okay, red, blue, and white. So we can think of these as like blocks in a bag. So if we want to know what the probability of taking a red block out and a white block out of the bag, we also need to think about what we call replacement. Replacement means I take one block out of the bag, and whatever I pick, I put it back before I pick my second one. Okay? So when we think of this word and, I want you to think of multiply. Okay? And so if we want to find the probability of picking out a red block, well, how many red blocks are there? There are 2. So the probability of that is 2 out of, how many total blocks are there? There are 9. I told you the word and means multiplication. So we have 2/9 of a chance of picking out a red block. When we replace, so we've drawn a block, now we've replaced it. What would be the probability of picking the white block? Well, there's 4 that are labeled white, or that are W's. And we put the last block back. So how many are there in the bag? There are 9. And so the probability of actually pulling out a red block and pulling out a white block, we would multiply those. We would get 8 out of 81. 8 81s. Not a very high probability. Let's go ahead and talk about what happens if we do not replace that block. So again, let's go back to the beginning here with what if we pull a red block out? Well, the probability of that is still 2/9. We'll put our multiplication sign, but whatever block I pulled out, I'm not going to replace it. So that means how many white blocks would be a possibility? I could have 4, but how many are in there in the bag if I did not put that block back? There are only 8. So we have to be careful if it's talking about replacement where we put the block back, or if we are not replacing. And again, the word and there means multiplication. So 2 times 4 would be 8. And 9 times 8 is 72. If you want to simplify that fraction, we could get 1/9 if we divide both by 8. So that is an example of compound, meaning more than one thing happening. And I gave you an example of the and with replacement and not replacement. So now we're going to look at the or. What happens if I have a compound event and it says or? Or we're going to have an and. And you're going to want to make sure for compound events, and you're going to want to make sure you have all your notes down. That's it. So we have 2 different kinds of events that could happen here with our or. We can have exclusive events, which means no outcomes in common. Okay? And we could also have what we call overlapping events where we do have some outcomes that are common. So I want you to picture a spinner. And this spinner is divided into 20 different sections, and it has just the number 1 on one of them, the number 2, the number 3, all the way to 20. Let's talk about an exclusive event here. First of all, we can see that it says we want to find the probability of spinning a 2. The key word there is or a 5. Well, when we think of or, we're going to think of addition. Let me actually change that color. Let's go with green. Okay. So if we want to spin a 2, let's start there. And I will tell you this is an exclusive because there's no overlapping. You'll see what I mean here in a second. If I want to spin a 2, what's the probability of that? Well, it's just 1 out of 20. One of the spots on the spinner has the number 2 on it, and there's 20 total spots. Now when we see that word or, we want to think addition. And now let's talk about what's the probability of spinning a 5. These are exclusive, meaning no outcomes in common. The probability of spinning a 5, there's only one space that has a 5 on it out of 20 total spaces. So the probability of this occurring, 1/20th plus 1/20th, we could get 2/20ths. We have to remember how to add fractions. And if we simplify that, we get 1/10. Divide the top and bottom by 2. So if we wanted to spin a 2 or a 5, that would be the probability. Let's talk about an overlapping example. I'm going to pick blue here. I might even do blue and yellow. Overlapping example. What's the probability of spinning the spinner and getting a multiple of 2? Well, I'm going to circle all the multiples of 2 in blue. This is a multiple of 2, multiple of 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. These are all multiples of 2. So how many did I circle? I circled 10. How many total are on the spinner? 20. Remember, this is an or, so we're going to add. So we want to get a multiple of 2, or, and I'm going to use the color yellow, a multiple of 5. So I'm going to circle the 5s in yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 of the numbers out of 20 that would be a multiple of 5. However, I see some of those that I circled in blue and yellow. How many did I circle in blue and yellow? The 10 and the 20. So we've counted those in a sense twice. So we actually need to take away the one that we've circled twice. We've circled 2 out of 20. So if we add these and take away, we know 10 plus 4 is 14. Take away 2, we would get 12/20ths. And if we simplify 12/20ths, we get 3/5. So if I were to summarize this for you, we need to make sure we understand that our probability, we're going to either have an or